session is going to be a little bit different to the normal one in that it's not just going to be kind of an out-and-out match session. We have got a bit of a tutorial going on this morning. Carl Shepherdson kindly volunteered to come along and show us his way of fishing on bloodworm and joker. So hopefully we'll all learn a few things today and you guys will find this video of interest. So I'll leave you with Carl and he's going to show us how to mix a ground bait up and how to prepare bloodworm and joker.
Right lads, welcome. Hopefully none of this will be sucking eggs too much, but if there might be a little bits, I know everyone knows how to mix ground bait, etc. There is a couple of little tricks, especially as none of you have ever used bloodworm and joker before. The reason we do it slightly differently is there's a lot of salt in ground bait. Ground bait and joker don't like going together in terms of the salt. It kills the worm, it dries it out. So if you mixed your whole bucket up full at the start, over the course of a session or a match, it could end up killing the actual joker off itself. So we tend to leave things separate. So first of all I do is prepare the actual the ground bait itself. This time of year is a little bit different from the summer. Summer you can get away with chucking everything in a bucket, mixing it up and away you go. Same as a lot of carp puddles. When we're fishing for small roach in quantities, you want to refine that a little bit by taking a lot of the particles out. It seems a bit of a waste. It's not, because what you can do is you can actually bag the stuff up, chuck it in a bag, chuck it in a freezer, chuck it in a sealed container, save it for the middle of summer. It's dry particles, so it's not going to go off. Put it away and use it in your carp mixes in summer to make a really active mix. The two that I've used is quite well known on this canal itself is Dynamite Silver X Roach in black and Frenzied Hemp. Both of them have both got a high content of hemp seed themselves. Reason being, roach love hemp. A lot of fish love hemp, but on here the canal is absolutely stuffed with them. So it's a good bait to use. I've used it for quite a few years myself now. So easiest way to do it, get your riddle, whole bag, and just give it a quick riddle off. Right, so that's the roach mix. You see how much is actually left over in there in a full bag. Like you say, if you want to keep it, you can keep that for the summer, not a problem. Today we'll just get rid of it. As you look now, it's a hell of a lot finer than what it was when we started. Exactly the same with the Frenzied Hemp.
So the main reason that we do that, Carl, because we're not wanting to introduce too much feed.
Yeah, you don't want to introduce too much feed. What you want to do is, it's a bit about judgment on the canal itself. In the summer you can use quite a decent amount of ground bait and it won't scare the fish off so much. Because we've had a bit of rain this week as well, canal's a little bit clearer than it can be. It can make the fish back off slightly a little bit more. With the high feed content and the temperatures starting to drop as well, the fish's metabolism is starting to change, so they're starting to eat a little bit less. So the actual processed food, what they actually goes through the fish, you want to try and reduce that. Basically, you're not overfilling them. And you don't want to put them off too much before you even start. You still want a little bit to go in the actual canal itself, because you want a bit of feed, you want a bit of activeness to bring the shoals in. Later on, when we're actually topping up, all I top up with is your actual soils itself. So there's no feed content other than the joker. It's joker rich. You've got the shoal in there, you've targeted them into an area you want, and you just want to keep them there. So as it is for now, both ground baits are in, and we'll just give them a quick mix dry. Obviously a hell of a lot easier with a drill than doing it by hand and a riddle. There you go, nice and mixed. The reason we use dark as well as opposed to a natural colour, and if you've only got natural colours the same as the limes, I've got plenty of black colour in here, is when the bed breaks down, you've got the shoal over the top, it doesn't cast so much of a shadow of the fish. There's a lot of pike in here, so you don't want to spook them. You want to reduce the amount of pike that are actually going to go through your swim, because if they go through, they will ruin it and it takes them a while to bring them back. So you've got to effectively start again. So as we would normally, just mix your ground bait up. And there you are now. It's quite a wet mix as it is at the moment, easily moulded into a ball, and it can break down. It doesn't take much water, but you will need to add more in a bit. But as it is for now, that's your ground bait, so we'll leave that to one side. Again, like I said before, but it's in, you've got to judge of how much ground bait to how much actual leam you need to actually use. I'd err on the side of caution just because of the amount of rain that we've had recently in terms of how much ground bait is going to go in. Initial feed a little bit more, so I'd go 70-30, or maybe even 60-40. So 60% ground bait, 40% leam. There's actually quite a high content of leam and soil that's actually going in, reducing that risk of overfeeding fish. And the easiest way to do it, take that bait. We want 10 balls at the start, 6 on one line and 4 on the other. So I'll go 60-40. And that can go to a side. And that's going to be my mix. My initial feed. And it's as easy as that for that first bit. The second part is your soils. The first one is damp leam, readily available for most shops. All it is just a clay based soil. It's inert, there's no feed content, it's heavy. This canal's 9 foot deep, 9 to 10 foot, so you want the bait on the bottom, that's where you want to be fishing it. You don't want anything up in the water, because as soon as you start pulling fish off the bottom, the shoal starts spreading out. You want them on the deck. The easiest way to get them down is to use soil. The other one to bulk it out is more little soil. Found up and down the bank, I just went up and picked a few buckets full up for everyone, and all I've done is passed it through a maggot riddle to get rid of any of the stones, any lumps, any grass that's come out of it. It's a nice fine soil, and all I do is mix these two together in a 50-50% ratio. So again, we've got our 6 balls in there, so all we need is 4 balls now. It might sound odd, but we're actually going to put 4 balls in here, but that will make up the goes in there. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And again, in with the ground bait whisk. I've probably actually done this the wrong way around, but give us that a second. Chuck that in there. And that in there. And give that a nice mix up as well. So basically when we come to the end of it, all of that is going to go with that, and that's going to be your initial feed. This won't mix itself alone. It's soil is hard. If you actually press it like that, although it's damp, as soon as you start mixing it with the ground bait, the dryness, it starts breaking up so much and you can't compress it into balls. So what you need is to add a binder, and in this case it's grey leam. Grey leam again is basically clay based cement. It's very, very strong in its binding properties, and literally all you'll need is about that much for that whole lot in there. Don't add it to the ground bait, it goes straight into the soil. We'll just add a tiny little bit more. Again, you see the dust coming off the top. When you initially do it, mix it by hand first until it starts mixing together. Because you've got obviously damp soil and damp leam in there, it's like any other ground bait, it's already got water content in it. So if you actually grab it now, and grab that, in fact, you feel how, and that's just a tiny little nip. It doesn't need much. That will get all your bait.
Go all the way down.
That will go all the way to the deck before it starts breaking up. That's what it's about. It's about pinpointing everything where you want the fish. You don't want them up in the water, because as soon as they come up, they're spread out, and then the shoal's everywhere. You want them on the deck. So what you do is make sure it gets to the deck. And in this case, on a lot of Yorkshire's canals, the deep soil is a big part of it. If we come back to that one now, if you actually look at that from where it was, it's dried off quite a bit already itself. So again, Now is a good time just to add a little bit more water. And start bringing that back again. And we are nice and wet again. See how if you start doing like that, it just starts to form little clumps. It's got a lot of moisture in there. That's going to take on a bit more water yet still, but we'll come back to that just before we start to use it. But that's near enough there. Everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
It's fairly simple, isn't it? Like I say, mixing ground bait is mixing ground bait, but the idea is you keep the two separate so you don't kill this before you even start. Right, bloodworm and joker. Very, very, very simple in terms of preparation. It confuses a lot of people because a lot of people don't use it, which is absolutely fine. For years I never used it and it confused me. I didn't want to touch it. I was scared of it because I thought it was expensive, it was hard to prepare, it was hard to fish. It really, really isn't. A lot of good tackle shops will sell it in the winter months. If not, you can order it online via Sam Wildsmith. He pretty much supplies a lot of the UK's stock, to be fair. Comes from either Russia or Poland, whichever countries he goes to, and it's always top quality. It's used by a lot of the big match anglers throughout the UK. A match pack itself ranges between 12 and 16 quid depending where you get it from. Comes in 2 packs of 2 bits of newspaper. The first one is your bloodworm. If you want to have a look in. Quite dormant at the moment because it's quite cold out here, but these are your hookers. These are not going to go in the feed, they're going to go on your hook. Easiest way to prepare these, get a tub of water. It doesn't need to be deep because they still breathe, they still like to pop their head up. So just a little bit of water in a tub. If you've got a white one, even better, so you can actually see them in your tub. And that's your bloodworm. Now they're going.
How long will they live for?
If you keep them in newspaper, you keep the newspaper damp, keep changing it, you can get a couple of days, maybe 3 or 4 days at the most out of them. If you had the proper tanks and the aeration, you can keep them for weeks. The likes of Alan Scott on and people like that who are on the winter leagues, on here pretty much throughout every week of the year, they keep theirs in tanks and they can keep them for a good time, whatever they don't use. It saves on costs, but the initial outlay for obviously all that stuff might be expensive. For me, it's easier. I know I'm going to be fishing it on a Saturday or a Sunday. I just order it, use it as and when. I don't get a chance to fish the leagues because of my shift patterns. But that's your bloodworm, as simple as that. Nothing more needs to be done and that's ready to go. I have got a black tub. You can use a white one for ease, for seeing it, or a little trick is to have a white or a light coloured towel. Stick it in the water, dampen it off. This is great in winter because you can just stick it on your knee, pull a pinch out and leave them on there. Saves your hands going in every single time and freezing your fingertips off. Plus you can see them a bit easier as well. It's just daft little things like that that can make a difference. Right, the joker. Again, comes in a, what you call them, in newspaper. What you want is it to be as dry as possible for separating as much as you can. So if you've had it and the newspaper is really damp, swap it out the day before, put in some fresh stuff and it'll take a little bit of the moisture out, or at least on the morning before you come, it'll soak up a lot of the moisture out of the actual worm before you start. As daft as it is, they need moisture to live, but we're about to chuck it in there. So you want it dry so it separates easier. If you don't, you just end up using a little bit more lean to actually separate it. And all you literally do, your damp lean that we riddled off before, just grab some and sprinkle it over it. And then all you do, you can be quite vigorous with it. It's quite hardy stuff, to be fair.
What actually is it? Worm?
It's worm, yeah. That's all it is, just worm larvae. Just lives on the bottom of most waterways in the UK, throughout Europe, throughout the world, pretty much basically. And you see how it's starting to break down. Just add a little bit more. Now what I do...
Don't you overdo that?
Not really, no, because it's going to go in leam anyway. Leam's not going to hurt it as much as ground bait's going to hurt it. So what I tend to do is I'd take a third of it off and leave it wrapped up for later on so it stays fresh. But because we're going to split this pack, right, I've done the whole lot. But normally I'd take a third off, leave it wrapped up, and then I'll do, if I need it, I can do that later in the match. Or if you know you've got 2 days consecutive, it depends how it's fishing. It's just, like you say, everyone likes cost effective.
Like a third of that with the lean and leave the rest
I just leave that in a thingy and just take it apart. Right, it is starting to break up, but stick some more on. Come on. But from that little clump that we had at the start, you see how it's all now separating. So if we leave that a couple more minutes while we're getting ready, that'll break itself down. Right. But in terms of bloodworm and joker and the prep, that is it. There's nothing more you need to be done. Like I say, when I was younger and people started speaking about, I thought you had to do all this big fancy stuff, the likes of grey leam. Grey leam's great if you're on a shallower canal and you want to feed it neat. Put the grey leam on because it's drier, it will separate it quicker. Most of the time damp leam, you can see how it's gone from that little block and it's now spread out. And the clump.
You always do this on the bank side, or
always do it.
To
No, always do it on the bank side, and then it's there, it's fresh, it's ready, and you can regulate it as much as you like.
Would you mind just talking us through your rig setup, please?
No, of course. In fact, do you want to chuck us one of the top kits, Matt? Probably be easier.
Well, it's nearly there, isn't it? I mean, it's just getting everything separated.
Like you say, most of the thing with bloodworm and joker fishing is prep.
Yeah.
And for what probably takes 20 minutes explaining it here, when you're doing it normally and you're just on your own, you get on with it, it takes you 5-10 minutes and it's done. It's not exactly really difficult. In terms of rig wise, number 4, number 5 elastic, depending how it's fishing. This one's a number 4 at the moment on a 0.6 gram float. I've also got a 0.8 and a 1 gram float as well. All depends on what the tone the canal's like. I'll try and use the lightest rig possible, but if I need to and it's towing, stick the heavier rig on, get the bait on the bottom where the fish want to be. That's where your feeding zone is, that's where you want to be in. So don't be afraid to. Line itself is 011 Preston power line. Decent sized line. Don't mind using 012 as well, it offers you that little bit of stiffness. Because it's 9 foot deep, you want to prevent tangles, so a thicker line will help with reducing tangles. The float itself is, these are made by one of my mates, Rob Marsh, Boggy Marsh. It's just a wire stem float, 0.6, balsa body with a solid tip. The tips are cut down slightly just so that it can actually set a little bit quicker on the water. You don't want loads of bristle sticking out, you only want it down to as low as you can possibly see it. The reason being is, hopefully you'll see the difference between a bite when it pulls it under and a lift bite. Lift bites you don't always see on here. What it's a case of is reading your float. Where if you say, for example, as soon as the floats touch the water, it takes 4 seconds for it to settle to the end of the tip. You count in your own head 4 seconds. If after 4 seconds it's still up, that's a lift bite. So you strike. You don't necessarily always see the float lift up as a lot of people think you do. Moving down from there, hook length is 07 Colm Extreme fluorocarbon line. Nice and light to a size 22 PR 311 hook, barbed hook. 8-inch hook length. First dropper shot right above the loop itself. Next one 8 inches above, and then I've got the main part of the bulk, if you can see on there. Yeah. It's a positive rig, like I say. You want this on the deck. The float currently is set up for bang on the bottom, but I will raise it up by 1 inch. And it could be a case of playing about with it that it might end up going up to 6 inches over, maybe a little bit more at times. It all depends on what it's doing. The 1 gram rig will definitely be over because of the flow on the water. You're combating the tow as much as possible. But the bulk itself, a number 8 shot. I've got one sat an inch and a half just below it. This acts as like again, to prevent tangles as much as possible. It acts as like a bit of a boom. It brings the last little bit away from the bulk, ready for the rest of the rig to start falling down on a more natural fall through the water. And then above it, I've got on this one I've got 5 number 12 shots. The reason I use number 12s, they're nice and light, but because you've got your float sat quite low down, especially with balsa made floats, they take on water throughout basically the period of the session. Not all do, it depends how they finish, but a lot of the time they do take on a bit of water, and you've had it before where your float sank. Bit of bristle grease could bring that back up, or you could just nip one of the number 12 shot off and it'll bring it back up slightly, bringing your float back up to where you can see it.
You mentioned about the barbed hook. You need barbed hook for the bloodworm?
No, you don't need barbed hook for the bloodworm. I like a barbed hook on a canal because maybe not so much pleasure fishing, it just depends on how you want to do it, but especially match anglers, you want to make sure every fish counts.
Yeah, true.
Barbed hook or micro barb is just another aid to helping make sure that fish don't get bumped off. The elastic itself, again, it depends on who you talk to as to how they set it up. I know a lot of guys, they've got a bung in the number 1 section and they like to have a short piece where they can hit it and pull it in. I've got it through the top kit, full top kit, and it was only for an article I read quite a few years ago with Alan Scott on saying he could hit a fish, a lot of elastic comes out, but he could ship back quite quickly and then lift and into his net or swing to hand if it's the right time to swing to hand. Again, pulling away from the pike, it just depends on who set it up and how it is. Me personally, I prefer through a top kit, and I like the fact that you can actually ship your pole back quickly to where you need it to and then get the fish up. If it was a skimmer, then I'd want it to stay down a little bit so it doesn't come up to the top and spook the shoal too much, because they're generally a lot bigger than the roach are. Unless you're fishing hemp, then you can get some decent sized hemp fish as well. Any questions?
What size are your droppers?
The droppers on this one are, what's this one, 0.6, number 10s. On the 1 gram rig, they're number 8s. The big
full of bungs or side pullers on your kits or anything?
No, straight in. Just so that if it does come out, you can just wind a bit of elastic on without messing about. Because solids do have a tendency to hang out the end a lot of the time, especially on thin tip kits. Just had a look, yeah, I've dried out a little bit, obviously with everyone getting set up, so I've added a little bit more water, probably over wetted it actually slightly, but the leam's a bit drier, so once that mixes in you should get a really good consistency. As easy as that. Right, so like we said, initial feed. Personally, I like to put 6 balls on the short line, 4 on the longer line. The reason I do this is I want to get on that shorter line. So if I've got a little bit more bait in the water, chances are I can hold the shoulder a little bit quicker before I need to refeed. I tend to start on the longer line to give that shorter line a chance to settle. Both my rigs, or all 3 rigs, are all exactly the same length as they are at the moment, and they're both plumbed up. One for 7 metres, one at 13. It's the same depth at those two. You're just starting to come out of the ball itself on both sides. With that as well, silt, all the crap that's at the bottom of lakes that naturally, and canals that naturally gets drawn into, you're just off that, so you're just starting to come up away from it all, so it gives you a better chance and a bit more of a clearer patch for your bait to sit on. So all we do is measure out our 10 balls. And we've got a bit left over for top ups. Hopefully we won't need too many, but again, it all depends on how the fish are reacting, how they're feeding, as to how quick you need to top up. Little ways, or ways that you can tell that you need to top up. If you're catching well. As soon as your bites start to slow down, and you'll see it because you'll be catching quite consistent, hopefully. Your bites start to slow down is a good sign that you need to actually top up your swim itself. If you get to a point where there's just perch in your swim, you've pretty much, the roach have moved out. If you was in a competition like the Winter Leagues or any match that you was on here, that's the point where you know you've gone that one step too far. So everything's about preempting, reading your swim. Hopefully you'll make that, you'll be able to see that, you'll make that decision and go, right, I'll put another ball in. If you feel you need to come off it and rest it by going on the other line, keep them both topped up, because the chance you might need to rest it, so you might need to go that little bit further out. But keep it there, keep it going, be proactive. Don't just sit on it and think the fish are going to stay there, because they're not. All we do now, I've measured out basically 250ml of the joker. That goes straight in over the top and just give it a nice mix around. So now, if you want to have a look, pass it around, you'll see how rich the balls are as I mix the rest up. Doesn't look it, does it?
No. And that'll just break right down on the bottom.
That will just break down on the bottom, yeah. Like I was talking about short earlier, it's consistency wise, it all depends on who the angler is as well. I've seen guys on here, they're like a real nice fine mix with a lot of activity. I know guys where they mix it to an absolute clay because they want it to sit on the bottom. It just depends. Is there a right way and a wrong way? Not really.
Yeah.
You're talking about top match anglers who fish this all the time and they all catch. So it's about getting your bait to the bottom, gearing it in a feeding zone, gearing it where you want it. Targeting your fish. Same principles apply on any lakes, anything like that you go to. Same thing there. It's just having that little bit prior thought of what you're doing. A lot of people sit and they'll sit in a match, and you can look and think, just make that one little change. As daft as it is, it could be something that's so small, but some people do, some people don't.
Have you ever seen how it breaks down when it's in the water or not?
I've not actually, no. That'd be interesting though.
Yeah.
To be fair, Rob Wotton and people like that, I think they do some underwater series.
Right.
I've not watched them all, so there might be something on there,
Yeah,
to be fair.
Yeah.
Could be worth it.
I think Rob Wotton and Nick Speed would do that.
Possibly, yeah, possibly. Possibly. I know Messingham Sand's not far from here, one of my local fisheries. They've started doing some underwater series, not so much with bloodworm and joker, but they've started like targeting the crucians, the F1s and the roach to see how they...
When you do see a little bit of a sketch like that, how,
yeah, just what they
how
actually...
the fish react to it.
Yeah.
Thing.
3, 6...
Another
one. There's the other one. Right. If I could just...
You're left-handed?
I am, yeah. Not only am I left-handed, I use my bloody landing net on the same side as well, which is weird. I never had anyone to show me how to fish a pole when I was a kid because my dad's only got one arm. So I had to sort of like learn myself, and it's a bit of a mishmash, to be honest.
Are you right-handed normally?
No, I'm left-handed.
Well, I'm right-handed, but fished left-handed for years.
Yeah.
All knew about my life. My brother says if you want to change, it's so easy. But I can't throw on your left-handed.
No. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you see all the other left-handed people, Alex Doherty and people like that, Lindholm,
Yeah.
they've got the landing net there.
Yeah.
I have mine on my left. So when I get it in, I actually swap hands. Bizarre. I've tried training myself to change. So, like I said, 13 metres, all I've done is I've picked a point on the far bank. You see how there's like a natural line of where like the tree lines and everything is. It's quite clear and then it's quite dark. I've picked a point what's dark so I can always see my float as much as possible. The light will change throughout the day, but knowing this canal, it doesn't change much. No, I'm actually slightly down there, to be fair. Again, I like being, I'm not a big fan of balling in on here, I like being accurate. The likes of the New Junction Canal, different story altogether. It's, you use the splash to bring the fish in. Yeah, you'd sort of like do it the opposite way, and you'd use the splash to bring the fish in, as opposed to actually cupping it in. Or for most of your balls anyway, and then be accurate for the last couple. Whereas this, you're going to be pinpointing it on a point. You want your rig over the top of it. Wire's giving him away. Aye.
Yep. Carl used to work in the tackle shop.
All right.
Aye.
Dave's a good angler.
What he's trying to imply to this now, potentially you, to get the interest.
On the camera answer or my answer? Surprised Will hadn't had it by now, to be fair.
Well, maybe I haven't seen it.
He has, he saw me buy it. Oh no, that's not what you want. The cup spun round. Great. So that's the long line done.
How many put on the long line, sorry?
4 on the long line.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Some people go 50-50 and they'll do 5 and 5. It's, again, everyone's got their own ways. Is anything right and wrong? Not necessarily. Can you do things better? Of course you can.
How long would you expect it to be before the fish moving on?
Pretty much straight away, mate. It's quite an instant bait. This canal is very roach dominant.
Yeah.
There's roach in every single peg,
Yeah.
and lots of them. So it's very, very quick. The bait,
What sort of size are you looking at? The right?
4 ounces as an average. But there is smaller, there is bigger. A lot bigger and a lot smaller.
Would you normally start by fishing long, or would you go?
I always start long. The reason being, I want to get this short line going. The short line is where you're going to catch quick. So if I can rest it as long as possible, get the fish on it, get on going confidently, and then come on it at a later point.
How long do you do it? About an hour?
It all depends on how the long line's performing as well. I still don't like to come off feeding fish. And you can judge, especially if pleasure fishing is different, like you say. You can do what you want as and when. A match, you've got to judge it how other people are catching as well. If you're not as quick as other people are, like if you can see they've dropped onto the shorter line, they're catching just as quick as you are, but on the shorter line, they're going to catch more overall. So, like you say, 4 on the long line, 6 on the short line, and give it a chance to rest. There's a little bit of a toe on the water at the moment, so I'll go with a slightly heavier rig, not too much. I'll just go an inch over depth as well. I plumbed up to bang on dead depth. Right, hopefully what I'll do now.
Would you ever change to just riding on half an inch or 2?
Say again.
Would you ever change to riding an inch or 2 on bottom or not?
That's what I say. I've just gone over depth, so I am actually on. Yeah, you want the bait as static as possible. So any means that you can do to get that. Yeah. So I don't know if you can all come in and see this. That's what I was saying. We're just so it gives you an idea. Not so much today because it's not absolutely freezing. But definitely in the winter when it's icy, you'll see. So if you get that little pinch of bait on the towel, instead of sticking your hands in the cold water all the time, a little damp towel, plus it then separates the actual bloodworm themselves. So you can see which one's alive, and that one there isn't moving, so it's a dead bait. So what you want is one of the ones that are curled up pretty much, or the one that's quite active. As I was saying to some of you before, if you're going to multiply hook, the dark part is the head. So if you hook it like you do a maggot through the head, 2 or 3, sometimes, not all the time on here, but sometimes you can, if they're really having it, you can put 6 or 7 on a slightly bigger hook. Like you say, I've got 22 on today, but you can up it to it should be something.
What was it, Paul?
5,
Right. So you rig itself. If you let the line go in and just follow it down, Don't just drop it in and let it drop down. Actually follow it down, because a lot of the time the bites come fairly quickly. So you need to be able to see it. So now there's my float. So I know it's going to take 2 seconds. There we are, that's the float settled. If the float was set up any more than that now, then I know it's a lift bite. You see the little dink on it then?
Yeah.
And then the same again, nice and slow down. So 1, 2. See it going down? Right, step. Yeah. Skim it.
You get more lift bites once it's going under with it going on that bottom.
Yeah, don't know if it's because you are slightly on that slow.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because the pull it because the aim.
Away from
Yeah. And the aim down slightly. I think you do get lift bites.
Yeah.
You do get plenty of them, but I think you do get more pull unders than you do lifts. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try a double.
So if you was fishing a mash, you'd be as fast as anything.
I'll be wanting it a lot quicker than this at the moment. But again, you've got to judge who's around you as well. If it's an overall match, obviously that's hard to judge. But if it's sections, then yeah, you can always see. You can see what's going on.
When would you be looking to catch the better quality?
They can come at any time, to be honest. With bloodworm and joker, you're aiming more for smaller fish, but lots of them. But if I was fishing a match, I'd have a 14.5 metre line with hemp. Yeah, I'd put a big 150mm pot of hemp in, and then I'd be feeding for 2 or 3 hours straight over the top of it, quite heavily. Within maybe about half an hour, 40 minutes before I wanted to go on it or try it, I'd start cutting the feed back. Feed at the same rate, but I'd feed less. I'd feed like 4 or 5 grains of hemp as opposed to 10 and 12. And then go on it and try it. If you get bites straight away, then they're on it. If you don't, or you get a few liners, it means they're not fully on it yet.
No, we used to use tears in winter, especially on the trend.
Yeah.
That used to get the better quality.
Yeah.
And casters, of course, always used to.
Yeah. But if you can get on the hemp and you can go on it early enough,
Yeah.
you can get a big weight very quickly. Something I know a few of the guys asked me about today, but I didn't want to overcomplicate things by, especially it's not something I could show you now other than the rigs and how I'd feed it,
Yeah.
because it does need a good few hours for it to really settle down. Well, I must admit, it's not fast and furious today.
You know, because it was so cold last night.
No, it's normal. I don't think the cold really affects it as much because the canal's used to. It fishes all the way through winter, even when it's freezing.
Yeah.
Rain affects it a lot more because that changes your pH levels, it changes your clarity in the water, etc. But I don't think cold affects it so much. Yeah, all the banks.
And everything, well, it's got water pumping in.
Come on.
Although looking at the water line, it's down a foot.
Yeah, I do normally.
For where it's been.
Yeah, for where it has been.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not so bad because it's a man-made one as opposed to a more natural one. Perch.
Ready to go. Yeah, I did look at it a couple of years ago, but I just wouldn't get enough value for money.
How about
Yeah.
how bad?
Busy though. It's full of fishing, it's busy. You have to go sometimes the night before to get paid.
Yeah.
For now, yeah, until it starts to slow down. But what I am going to do is, I'm just going to shallow up slightly.
Run it through happen, then you just...
No, try and hold it, yeah, try and hold it still as you can. But what, the last 4 fish now have all been quite deeply hooked. I'm just going to shallow off slightly. Hopefully then that'll, when they do bite, I'll be able to see the bite a bit quicker. So it won't be as deeply hooked. Should hopefully get it in its top lip instead. Trash this bloody hook as well. This one's the 08 at the moment. Yeah, you could probably actually step it down now to the 06 because the toes dropped off a little bit. And don't be afraid to chop and change, you know, on your rigs as well. One will perform better than the other. You see how it's a little bit more steady now. So the next one I'll drop it down. Hopefully it should bring in a few more bites. See, this will go one or two ways. You either won't get a bite because it's not where the fish where they want it to be, or it'll be better, like you said, where you don't hook them as deeply.
Totally gutted of that place to get that village. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I know. What I might do if I can, get an hour or so, like in town tomorrow. Yeah. You know, like I said, she was a little bit better this morning. She had a better sleep anyway last night. I think it was a little bit
Fats, there you go.
Yeah, look up, yeah.
Right in its top lip now. Just shallowed up an inch. Just shallowed up an extra inch. Can't get the hook out. That's what I say. You know when you read the magazines and they say about it's always good chopping and changing, going up and down, etc. It is worth it. I've always believed as well, if you're struggling to catch or it's not quite right, if you're thinking of doing something, just do it.
Yeah.
Just don't think about it. Just do it. Chances, if you're going to sit there for 10 minutes thinking about it, you might as well actually try it and see if it makes a difference. If it doesn't make a difference, then you can have a go back, or you try something else.
Yeah.
And it's the same with baits on commercials. If you're thinking, oh, I might do better on sweet corn, for example, rather than pellet, just change it. Just do it.
What's your set point? It's not a Dacron, is it?
Me? No, it's I've got like a Dacron connector on the end, or just the bead part of it, but it's direct to elastic.
Or just a pro scope?
Yeah, basically, with just the bead behind it.
Yeah.
Again, does it? I'm not sure if it. I can see the principle behind it when people say it's a more direct contact with your elastic, rather than pulling the actual Dacron part of a connector. Me just faffing about, I thought I'll give it a season to try it.
Yeah.